Hello and welcome back into Jacket Sports Weekly. I'm Riley Holsinger sitting down with Caleb Yager, and we are in the most wonderful season of the year where we have the fall sports intersect with the winter sports. And Caleb, the first sport that we're going to talk about, the Waynesburg University football team won another game, 2-8 on the season now. Didn't just defeat Bethany this past weekend, but dominated them 31-7.
After the big Teal win many weeks ago, they went on a 5-game losing streak, and the most that they scored in that time frame was 14 points, and that was against Westminster in the 66-14 loss. But what an impressive performance on both sides of the ball from the Yellow Jackets this past Saturday. Trevor Miller, statistically didn't do amazing, 6 for 14, 47 yards, but it was just the running backs that really took it to the house. Nick Hall, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. Justin Flack, 91 yards, 1 touchdown. These two guys really carried the offense that day, along with the offensive line, did a great job blocking for them, and the defense forced turnovers against Bethany, 3 to be exact. Just a great general effort from the Yellow Jackets, so they really deserve that win on Saturday.
Yeah, just a great all-around win for Waynesburg in that game, and now they'll have a tough opponent this next weekend coming up against the Washington and Jefferson Presidents right there. Talking about another fall sport in the midst of its season right now, or at least towards the tail end of the season, the cross-country team will be competing in the NCAA Mid-East Regionals this upcoming weekend here to try qualify a spot for Nationals. Aubrey Winger ended up qualifying a spot back in 2019. She'll try to do so again. Gloria Reed trying to qualify for a spot to Nationals here. Those are probably the best 2 runners that have a chance of doing so to qualify for Nationals. They competed at the same course that they'll be competing at this upcoming Saturday at the Dickinson Long and Short Invitational. But Caleb, time to move over from our fall sports to our winter sports. Let's start with the wrestling team there.
Yeah, the wrestling team went to the Ned McGinley Invitational Tournament this past Saturday. A really not quite the performance that they were looking for. They placed 14th out of 15 teams. Luke Levanway went 2 on the day, but Rocky McGeary wasn't there. Garrett Cook got injured, and as a lot of guys like Harley Constable got a leg injury as well. Definitely the caliber that this program has established over the years has been quite impressive, but not at the performance, like I said, that they wanted this past Saturday, and they were predicted to finish 3rd out of 3 teams in the preseason rankings for the President's Athletic Conference. But we'll see as the season develops, as guys get healthier and the season progresses. I think things will change in the positive direction for Waynesburg.
Took the words right out of my mouth right there, Caleb. Not a great team performance when you finish second to last at a tournament, but still, you mentioned it right there. Guys like Rocky McGeary, the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the country, not competing. Harley Constable, a guy who placed in the President's Athletic Conference tournament, not competing. Luke Levanway, really promising sign to see him do well in that tournament. Had a really solid end of his freshman year. Good to see him continue and have a solid start to his junior year here. But moving on to the hardwood, the men's and the women's basketball teams getting ready to start action here, and the women's team ended up having a game this past Friday in which they lost to Hiram in overtime. Caleb, solid performance from Avery Robinson, 21 points. Brooke Fuller, 19 points in the loss.
Now, Hiram is just under 3 hours away, and one of the kind of disheartening things that a team can do is you travel all that way just to not put up a fight. But the Waynesburg University Yellow Jackets certainly put up a fight, 89-83, but it was tied 79 apiece in overtime. But it was tied at the end of not only the second quarter, not only the third quarter, but it was also tied at the end in all 3 of those quarters. Just an impressive performance by the Lady Jackets. Avery Robinson, 5 of 11 from downtown. Just a really impressive performance. A lot of minutes for this young core that this Waynesburg University team has. And if I'm Sam Jones, I'm really impressed with what I see. And good things, like I said, for the wrestling team are going to happen in the positive direction for them. I think it's going to be happening in the positive direction for the Waynesburg University women's basketball team as well.
The women's basketball team didn't really get too many contributions from the bench. Just Hiram had 50 bench points compared to Waynesburg's 17, and all those bench points were scored by Leighton Croft. Good to see her back with the team after not being here last year with the basketball team, so a solid performance from her in the first game of the season for the Lady Jackets. The next time they will play will be next Tuesday at home against Case Western Reserve, so that'll be a matchup that we'll keep our eye on moving forward here. And then the final sport that we have to mention is the men's basketball team set to play Oberlin tomorrow night at 7.
And it's going to be a test for the Yellow Jackets indeed, because they lost to them in the 2019-20 season. But then after Oberlin on Tuesday, they have a 5-game road stretch. It's going to be a tough test for the Yellow Jackets, like I mentioned. And Fusina over the offseason had a little bit of difficulty. That, like he mentioned, Riley interviewed Coach Fusina for a preseason preview, that the recruiting has been a little tough. And guys have been going on and off the roster, losing, for instance, Isaiah Alonso and other guys like Carlton Brown and stuff like that. But this team definitely has a lot of potential. They're young, but they're looking to develop, and Matt Popek said they're ready to go.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the big storylines, is how is this basketball team able to fill in for that loss of Isaiah Alonso? And one of those guys that might do so, Allegheny College transfer Najon Kirkman, has a lot of experience playing at Allegheny. And then this basketball team will really rely on guys like Matt Popek, who Fusina said is arguably the best scorer in the President's Athletic Conference. And then the youth of these guys like Jansen Knotts and Bryson Wilt will be very key to keep an eye on as the season goes, as the men's team finally back to a full season after dealing with the 10-game season from last year. The men's basketball team projected to finish 7th in the President's Athletic Conference preseason poll. But when we come back here on Jacket Sports Weekly, we'll be breaking down the football victory with Austin Bechtold.
You're watching WCTV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
The Waynesburg football team defeated Bethany 31-7 this past Saturday. Riley Holsinger, Caleb Yager, and our football analyst Austin Bechtold here to break more down into the win against Bethany and then the game coming up against Washington and Jefferson. So 1,113 days without a win against an opponent not named Teal College. Austin, just how great was it for Waynesburg to pick up a victory?
How sweet it is, Riley, and also to be able to break a 5-game losing streak as well on senior day. Really, I think everything came together in what it needed to be, and this team just played as a whole, maybe collectively, I think the best that we've seen them play throughout the whole entire season outside of the Teal game. You know, the defense really fed off the offense fed off the defense, and the offense took care of the ball. And that was one main priority that we mentioned in the Wilson pregame show that the team had to do to be able to secure a victory. And Trevor Miller and the offense were able to do just that.
And talking about how the offense and the defense fed off each other, let's focus on the defensive side of things for a second. They forced 3 turnovers against this Bethany Bison on offense. What were they able to do it?
Well, the secondary played pretty well. Up front, though, they limited Bethany to 42 yards rushing. Waynesburg ran for 265 yards compared to only 42 for Bethany. That was a big part of it, but Brandon Tyson played fantastic in the secondary. He had 11 total tackles. Luke Mangus had an interception. This is a defense that ended up forcing 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 1 interception, and really just collectively as a unit playing really well, stopped the run first, and then letting Silent Etro throw it, and he didn't really have that much of an opportunity to find guys wide open deep because they were facing a lot of 2nd and long, 3rd and longs, which was setting up this Waynesburg defense in pretty good position to be able to send it back over to the offense, where they just absolutely dominated running the ball.
And you mentioned the rushing attack here for Waynesburg. 265 rushing yards, just a great game all around for Waynesburg on the ground there. Nick Hall, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had Justin Flack, 91 rushing yards. He added in a touchdown as well. Just how impressive was that rushing attack by Waynesburg?
I was very impressed, and throughout the whole entire game, the offensive line of the Yellow Jackets absolutely dominated the trenches. It was apparent, really, from the first couple series that this is just what's going to set the tone throughout this whole entire game, and that's what they did. And defensively for Waynesburg as well, Bethany had 3 freshmen starting on the offensive line, and that's one thing that they were able to exploit pretty much with ease to be able to create pressure on the quarterback. But back to the offensive side, I really liked how they put Trevor Miller in good positions where they didn't make him do too much. They didn't have him force the ball down the field. They really played to their strength of running the ball. Nick Hall was fantastic, and something really got into him on senior day. And Justin Flack was really supportive of him after the game on Twitter as well. And Hall just really ran with a burst and a bunch of speed, and he had a bunch of cutbacks from the middle of the field, bouncing it outside, where he was able to exploit some of the corners that were getting blocked down the field. So overall, just a fantastic offensive performance for Waynesburg, and the whole team looks like they bought in this week, and that's something really apparent throughout the entire game.
And can you talk about the impact that Trevor Miller had on Saturday, even though he had only 47 yards, how he was able to work himself into the offense?
Yeah, he threw one touchdown pass to Trenton Kearns. He also threw one interception. And I think part of that is just how he was able to take care of the ball, and he was put in good positions because of the running game. So, as I mentioned a little earlier, he wasn't asked to really do too much. I think he did a good job playing of his strengths of, he still tried to push the ball down the field, but I think he was a lot smarter with his decisions. And knowing to really just take what the defense gives you. Your running attack has been really pushing the pressure on this defense for Bethany. And I think Miller understood after 9 turnovers in the previous 2 games that he's got to limit himself a little bit, pump the brakes, if you will, on trying to just make things happen all on his own. And he really trusted his running attack. And, Dakota Romentino wasn't seen that often in the passing attack. Neither really was any other of the wide receivers for Waynesburg. But they didn't need to be because the rushing attack was just all that the Yellow Jackets needed.
Waynesburg will be facing a tough opponent 30 minutes up the road, up by 79 in the Washington and Jefferson Presidents. Quickly, what does Waynesburg need to do to make this a respectable game?
I think they got to come out and do exactly what they did in this last game at home against Bethany. Stay true to yourself, try to run the ball. This is a very tough W&J defense. The offense for W&J might be a little different. We'll see if Justin Heacock is the starter after another loss last week for the Presidents, pushing them back in the standings a little bit. But I think, W&J, they're still a fantastic team. They still have a bunch of talent on the offensive and defensive sides. If you're Waynesburg, I think just try to take some of the momentum and the confidence, especially, that you had from this last win, and try to use that and start with the ground game. Have Trevor Miller just hand it off a bunch of times, and if he does have to push it down the field, push it down the field, and look for Romentino to try to make a play.
All right, well, thank you, Austin. When we come back on Jacket Sports Weekly, I'll be breaking down some of the plays in the victory against Bethany. Hello and welcome back into Jacket Sports Weekly. It's time for a new segment right here on Jacket Sports Weekly. We'll be breaking down some of the plays from the Waynesburg and Bethany games, so let's jump right into it. Up first, we'll have 2 defensive plays from the matchup. First one here, going to be a screen by Bethany, as we're going to see that near side slot receiver for Bethany come down, and he's going to have a lot of room to run if no defenders are nearby. Monroe Mueller is going to be the key guy that we're going to look at the bottom of the screen for Waynesburg. So we can see right here is the outside contain, has a good chance to make a play, but if that wide receiver on him makes a good block, that wide receiver is able to make a huge play from this, get a first down, a lot more, because Mueller's other buddies aren't anywhere near him here. They're more towards the inside of the field, but Mueller does a good job by taking outside contain here in case, or if he makes a big play like that right there, Mueller comes up with a huge stop on that play. Guy who he hit on that play got the wind knocked out of him a little bit. We'll take a look at another defensive play. This defense did a good job not limiting any big plays, and that's because of this zone coverage right here that Waynesburg ended up running. They ended up letting the receivers run routes under them. They'd let those easy completions go by just to make sure they weren't burnt. As you can see, all the corners and defensive backs, their eyes are pointed towards the quarterback, which tells you they're in zone coverage, not in man coverage, where normally you'd look right at the wide receiver. See right here. Pass play going underneath, not worrying about that stuff, because then you could have guys like Brett Hicks, the middle linebacker on this play, come up with a big stop about 2, 3, 4 yards down the field, not really limit anything, as Brett Hicks does right here to set up second down and long. Finally, take a look into an offensive play here for the Yellow Jackets, the Trenton Kearns touchdown play. Trevor Miller and company On offense, take a look at Kearns, the near side slot receiver. Does a good job running a double move here. So you can see right here, he goes in a little bit. Gets his defensive back's hips squared with Waynesburg's sideline. Definitely not a thing that you want to do as a defensive back here. And it gives Kearns a really great chance to break a couple yards of separation, as he does right there. You can already tell there's about 2 yards of separation. And by the time Kearns gets this ball right here, he gets an easy touchdown reception there. But Trevor Miller had a little bit of a difficulty making this play here, because as soon as the play action fake happens, 2 defenders right in the backfield here for Miller. He can only go one direction, and that one direction is up forward in the pocket. Makes a really good throw on the run right here. This has been the football play breakdown right here on Jacket Sports Weekly. We hope that you enjoyed this segment. When we come back, we'll have more analysts analyzing the fall and winter sports.
The Waynesburg women's basketball team opened its season on Friday night against the Hiram Terriers. And here to break down the women's basketball team is our analyst, Joe Venzel. And what a game it was to start the season, going into overtime, an 89-83 loss. But the Jackets did have the lead in that game. Kind of break it down for us.
A lot of promising stuff coming out of this game against Hiram, Caleb, and especially a lot of point scorers from a lot of different people, especially the #1 point scorer on Waynesburg's team, Avery Robinson, with an exceptional 5 3-pointers in this game, and nobody else was behind her on slack. Brooke Fuller, 19 points as well, and the returning Leighton Croft with 17 points off of the bench, did not play last year, but 7 for 10 from the field and perfect from the free throw line. A lot of good stuff coming out of this game, especially tied at halftime, 38-38. Both teams going back and forth, giving a really good competition in this one, down to the wire. End of regulation, 79-79. Unfortunately, Hiram pulled away to win, 89-83. But then, gentlemen, like I said, a lot of promising stuff from this Waynesburg team.
So you just mentioned it right there. Leighton Croft, 17 points off the bench, but all of Waynesburg's points off the bench came from Leighton Croft right there. How big will it be for all of the other members of the bench to step up for Waynesburg moving forward?
It'll definitely be a factor, especially, you have that 17 points coming off the bench from that one person, and I feel like it'll motivate a lot of the other younger Waynesburg stars on this bench to really provide throughout the season, especially, your starters, Anika Dansby, Brooke Fuller, getting a lot of minutes. And Anika Dansby in this Hiram game got 43 minutes, but 8 assists and 9 rebounds, especially if she can stay out there for as long as she does and, provide for these Waynesburg bench players. I feel like it'll be a very great factor later on in the season.
Now, you talked about how the teammates for Anika Dansby have to really step up and produce more points off the bench. But last year, the Waynesburg University women's basketball team didn't really have a lot of depth on the bench, and they have a lot more bodies on the bench this year. How much is that going to impact them, especially in these games where they're going to have to really step up?
Oh, definitely. It's going to be a very big factor, especially with the tough opponents that they have in the PAC. It's going to be a really tough test to see what they can do against these stacked teams and a lot of good teams, I should say. And you get everyone on board, especially your starters and your bench, really get them together and really focus on the main goal, which is to win. Last year they had a 3-8 record, not the best, but still made the tournament. But if you can get those statement games against those statement opponents, I feel like it'll be great for the team.
Waynesburg last year had a very high volume scorer and 1,000-point scorer, Andrea Orlowski. She graduated. Now she's back as an assistant coach. But how tough will it be for Waynesburg to kind of have those growing pains without Andrea to consistently score 15 plus points in each game?
Definitely, Andrea is a big loss for them, but I don't really think it's going to be that big, especially you have your veteran center, Brooke Fuller, who has played most of her time here at that position and for this team. So I don't really think it'll be that big of a loss, but if she's on the coaching staff, I should say, definitely will motivate these players and give her knowledge and her expertise.
How important is it for Waynesburg to step up in terms of rebounding? Because they lost not only a good point scorer in Andrea Orlowski, but also a fantastic rebounder as well. So how much are they going to have to really rebound, especially with a kind of lack of size on the bench?
It's going to be tough. Brooke's going to be in a lot of positions where she's going to have to make those rebounds. And, but like I said, Anika Dansby coming off with 9 rebounds. So especially if you have those guards and your forwards doing what you can to get those rebounds, going to turn over a lot of points. It's going to be great against these tough opponents.
Very great stuff. Thank you very much, Joe Venzel. And when we come back, we're going to be breaking down wrestling with our analyst, Brock Owens, on Jacket Sports Weekly.
The wrestling team returned to its first collegiate tournament in almost 2 years. Here to break down the action is Richland Wrestling alumni Brock Owens. Brock, wasn't a great weekend for the team, finished 14th out of 15 teams at the Ned McGinley Invitational Tournament.
Yeah, it wasn't a great weekend. It probably wasn't exactly what they were looking for. Of course, there was some good signs, one of them being Luke Levanway. He went to the quarterfinals. He lost that match in a close one, got another victory, finished top 8 for the weekend. So he had a pretty good run. He could have done better. He even said so himself when I talked to him yesterday. And there were some other good signs as well. But as far as the overall weekend went, it wasn't great. It probably wasn't what they were looking for.
And a lot of guys actually weren't there for the Yellow Jackets, and injuries are really prohibiting the Yellow Jackets as well. Talk to us about those factors.
Yeah, one of them is obviously the biggest name out of the wrestling team, Rocky McGeary. He's expected to be the star on the team, and we're going to just have to see when he comes back. I don't know when he's going to come back. He's having a little bit of injury issues, some other issues as well. So we're going to have to just wait it out, see when Rocky comes back. Could be soon, it could be a little while from now. We're just going to have to see as far as Rocky goes. Garrett Cook got hurt in the tournament. He got hurt in his first match, got pinned, and then medically forfeited. And also Harley Constable, we're going to have to see when he comes back. He hurt his leg.
Luke Levanway made strides over the course of his freshman year a couple seasons ago, finished 2-2 in this tournament. How great was it to see Levanway perform well and take another step up in this tournament?
Oh, it's great to see. You love to see when guys progress like that. He's at 197 this year. Once again, he was there for really only one match they had last year. So it's good to see him getting comfortable at that weight class. And I think over the season, he's probably going to progress even more. And he'll have a good shot at maybe taking a PAC championship and maybe doing something at the regional tournament as well.
Waynesburg was picked to finish 3rd out of 3 teams in the President's Athletic Conference preseason poll. Do you think that's an accurate representation on what we should expect from this Yellow Jackets team?
I think it could happen. The thing is that the 3 teams are all pretty close, I would say. I'd say Teal, W&J, and Waynesburg are all fairly close, and really no matter what order you put them in, you might be right. I think that's going to be a very close tournament, a lot closer than we're used to seeing, because we're used to seeing just Waynesburg and W&J. But Teal might have a pretty solid team this year, and I don't know who's going to take the PAC championship, to be honest with you.
Still early in the season here, just the first tournament for the wrestling team. But when we come back on Jacket Sports Weekly, we'll have Tyler Zeman to break down the men's basketball team.
It's a Saturday night. You know what that means. Time to party. Sam is having a good time, watching sports, drinking beer, playing pong. Not a care in the world for Sam. Nobody at the party stops Sam. They let him walk out the door with his keys, even though he was stumbling, having a hard time to stand up. What happened less than 10 minutes later would change Sam's life forever.
Basketball season is here for Waynesburg University, and the men's basketball team is about to take the court here very soon. And here to break down the men's team is our analyst Tyler Zeman. They're about to take on the Oberlin College Yeomen, a kind of an interesting mascot if you ask me, but coming up this Tuesday night on the Waynesburg University Sports Network, and kind of give us a preview of what we can see in this game.
So the last time this men's basketball team saw Oberlin was in the 2019-20 season. They lost to them 80-55, and I think really what the men's basketball team is looking for in this game Tuesday, obviously you want to start the season off right with a win, but I think it's really just about getting set and trying to start a foundation to really build upon this season. If they start out slow and stuff, I mean, that's understandable, but what they really want to do is get their chemistry together and just try to figure out what the team's going to look like going forward.
So this is a very young men's basketball team right here. No seniors were lost from last year's team. Now they did lose some guys like Will Helton, like Gary Gray, like Jake Benhart, Isaiah Alonzo being a key person as well. But how key is it going to be to have the development of players like Jansen Knotts and Bryson Wilt to have a really good season for this men's team.
Well, I think that's one of the things going into this season is, yeah, they're a younger team, but they have 3 or 4 guys that are sophomores that played in the PAC in the spring season. So it's not like they're just coming onto the floor for the first time. They have experience playing against other PAC teams. Now, obviously, out of conference games, it doesn't really matter too much. It obviously goes against them in the record, but conference-wise, it doesn't really matter too much. But I think the seniors on the team in Zach Ford and Matt Popek are really going to have a big role in trying to get these 5 new freshmen into what a collegiate basketball really feels and looks like, and try to just make them more comfortable in the system because they've been here, they're all 4 years in college.
Now, Ryan Felberg kind of taking the reins since his freshman year, kind of being the leader of the offense. So how important is this role going to be this year for the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets?
I think he's in the same category as those seniors. He's played in Fusina's system before, so he kind of knows what the head coach is looking for in that regard. And he also, being a junior, I think it's really key for him to make those connections with the sophomores right now who played in last season, kind of, help build them up, build chemistry-wise, not just for for the sake of this season, but whenever these 2 seniors next year leave in Ford and Popek, they can already have a pretty nice base and chemistry together.
So I mentioned earlier about all the players that aren't on the Waynesburg basketball team this year. Obviously, the biggest name from that, Isaiah Alonso, transferring to Division II Colorado Christian. How big of a loss is that for this men's team, and how are they going to be able to overcome that loss?
Well, it's a really big loss because they lose a lot of height in this team. Being 6'10", Alonso was just really big and kind of commanded the floor. And he was a great player overall. He was able to get the ball, outside of the paint. It wasn't just what he did in the paint, but it was more of outside, drawing the other team's bigs out with him, and allowing the guards and the smaller players to get in there and get easy points in the paint. And defensively, he was one of their best players down low and in terms of rebounding. So this team's really going to have to find a way to score points on the first attempt. They can't really look to get too many second opportunities with their height being smaller now. So they're really going to have to focus on finishing and getting it done.
Thank you very much, Tyler Zeman. Once again, the Waynesburg men's basketball team tips off its season on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock against Oberlin College. And when we come back, Tanner Saprosky is sitting down with a mystery Waynesburg athlete. So stay tuned to find out who it is on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Back here on Jacket Sports Weekly, I'm Terrence Saprosky, and today for the interview section, I'm joined by Waynesburg running back Nick Hall. Nick, we'll just jump right into it. You played high school football at Bell Vernon. You graduated. What ultimately went into your decision of you coming to Waynesburg?
I originally decided to go to St. Vincent and play football there, and a little bit, probably a week into it, I didn't think college football was for me. I decided to quit the team and just do education there, just get my degree. And then I ultimately decided that St. Vincent wasn't for me either, so I decided to take a little break from college, and I started really missing it. And Coach Vinik, who is our defensive coordinator here, he recruited me very hard, and he showed me a lot of love. And the more and more I got to thinking about it, I decided that I did want to play football, so I gave him a call, and he said I was more than welcome to come up and give it another shot. And that's how I ended up here.
What's one big thing that Coach Vinik either said or did that really made you want to get back into the football playing ways?
He just showed me that, like, because when getting recruited, it always, like, you want to feel like you're cared about, and you want to feel like the coach is recruiting you, care about you as a person. And Coach Vinik really, like, displayed that to me. He was at my school like once a week, always checking up on me, seeing how I was doing, calling me, texting me, and I didn't get like that much love from, I'd say, the rest of the schools that were looking at me, and I could just tell he really cared about me and wanted me here.
And you didn't play a whole lot your first 3 years here. You've played a lot this year. You played really well this year. What do you think's been the difference for you enable you to play more this year?
I think freshman and sophomore year, I'd say I had like a lack of confidence in myself. I really didn't know if I was everything that I thought I was, and through my coaches and through a lot of work, I feel that they really gave me that self-confidence, and through a lot of the right play calling showed me the best way for me to run the ball and really get my best potential.
I think more this year than any other year, you guys kind of found a dynamic duo in the backfield with you and
Yes,
Justin
sir.
Flack. What has your relationship been like with Flack?
Oh, we're super tight. We look out for each other when we're on the field. Like if he's in the game and I'm on the sideline, they'll go out, do their drive. He'll come right out. Hey, how did this cut look? How did this cut look? And we'll go back and forth. And when I'm in the game, I do the same with him. So we're always looking out for each other. And we really just want to see each other succeed and all see the whole team succeed.
What do you think's your favorite part about Justin Flack's game?
Just how aggressive he is. If he wants something, he's going to go get it, and you can tell by the way he runs the ball. He goes out there, and if he wants that first down, he's going to get it, and nobody's going to tell him otherwise.
For yourself personally, if you could compare yourself to an NFL running back or a guy that you kind of try to resemble your game off of, do you have a guy in mind or anybody that you look up to?
A lot of people after Saturday were giving me the Nick Chubb. That's what they were trying to tell me, but I wouldn't say that there's anybody that I really like base myself off of. I just try to always watch a variety of running backs in the NFL, college, and just like pick up as many tips and tricks as I can along the way.
What do you think's your favorite part about being a running back?
Taking that ball, seeing the hole go open like this, and just seeing green grass in front of you and taking it off, hearing the crowd cheer. It's a great feeling, being able to run behind an O-line and just really have fun. I feel like that's the biggest thing with running back is like I have a lot of fun out there running the ball. So.
And you mentioned the offensive line. That kind of brings me to my next point. A lot of people don't give a lot of credit to the offensive line, but obviously you being a running back, you depend a lot on the O-line.
Yes, sir.
How important is an offensive line in football?
Oh, in my opinion, the most important position on the field, other than quarterback, because it starts from them. Whatever play we call, it starts from them. If they don't get their job done, then the rest falls, and I'd say it's the most important position on the field, for sure.
We'll go back to that Saturday game against Bethany. Last season, you broke your ankle against Bethany. This year, on Senior Day, 165 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Where did that come from?
I honestly have no idea. I wanted revenge, I guess you could call it, after what happened last year. And my biggest motivation was like looking at people like Eric McDowell, Trey Carl, people that I've been with since my freshman year that was their last game at Wiley, and that really gave me a lot of motivation. I wanted to go out there and win that game more than anything. Even if I didn't succeed the way that I did, I just wanted to win the game.
And you said that you're coming back for an extra year next year. Some of those guys that you even mentioned aren't coming back. What went into your decision to make you want to come back next year?
I felt that I really didn't get an off season like everybody else did due to me breaking my ankle, and I felt like truly none of us really got a full off season, because we came straight from playing with the spring. But I just feel like I had success this year coming straight off my broken ankle because I didn't even get cleared to run until about July 25th, so I was very behind. And I feel like with a whole off season, a whole spring ball, not just me but the whole team, we're going to develop, and I think that we're going to come out next year a lot better.
For you having to deal with that injury, what did your shortened off season look like for you?
A lot of physical therapy. I was in physical therapy 2 to 3 days a week. A lot of just taking my ankle and just moving it up and down like this. It slowly started getting better and better, and I started doing more and more things. But I wasn't allowed to lift. I wasn't allowed to go out and make cuts. A lot of it, it did drain my confidence a little bit. But then as soon as I was able to run again, it felt like it came back like that.
How much for you personally, being a running back? What's your balance between on-field drills and watching film? How much, do you do one more than the other, or is it more of a balance thing?
I'd say it has to be 50-50. I'd say film is probably the more important side because you do have to realize the defense you're playing and see the types of fronts that they're using, and watching that film and seeing the keys that they give off, it does really help you. But at the same time, if you can't do the physical skill, then it doesn't matter. And I feel like they're hand in hand. You need both. As a running back, what's your favorite play to run? If someone calls a play, what's the one that makes you have a big smile on your face? Power right or power left, either or. That's the one that I actually scored my first touchdown on Saturday. It's my favorite play since I was 8 years old. It's just basic football, and it's fundamental football, and I love it. If it hits, it hits, and you'll see success. So. Maybe not a lot of people might not pick up on this because you kind of have to watch the game, but you're one of the few people, no gloves, no arm sleeves. What's your decision behind that? That goes way back into midget league. My dad just always, he said you don't need to get like caught up in all that, and I just felt like I never did. So I never wore gloves in midget league and middle school, high school. It just, when it comes to like long sleeves and leggings, if it's cold, like I always felt a running back, I should never wear long sleeves. It doesn't matter how cold it is. It's just like superstition with the sleeve hitting the ball and all that. But yeah, I don't get into all that, like looking good and all that. I just, as long as I feel good, I'm happy. So.
And you're going into the last game this season against W&J. It's obviously going to be a tough game. What's your mentality and what's the team's mentality going into this week?
I think the biggest thing is we got to not make it more than what it is, because at the end of the day, it is a football game. I think if we just get caught up in the whole rivalry, then we're going to not succeed as much as we want to. And at the end of the day, we all just got to go out there and do our job. We got to all go out and execute and give 100% effort until the fourth quarter hits 0-0. And whether it's a winner or a loss, you'll be happy with the results if you go out there and you give it your full effort. And I think we'll be happy with the results come Saturday.
What has your practices been looking like this week leading up to a high caliber game like W&J? Not too much different than what we usually do. Just a lot more technical stuff, a lot more like putting in different plays for their front, because they do run a little bit of a complicated defense, and as we all know, they are good. So we're trying to put in as much as we can just to throw them off and succeed as best we can. We're sticking to the basics of this week, so we're running the ball. So. And thank you, Nick, again for joining me. Unfortunately,
Thank
we
you.
are out of time. Thank you for watching this week of Jacket Sports Weekly. Stay tuned next week for more updates and analysis on all fall and winter sports.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.